Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Well, better late than never. Welcome to my The Bad Batch Season 3 Episode 10 review / breakdown video, guys. We're going to go ahead and hop right on into it, break it all down for you guys in this recent episode of The Bad Batch, kind of review it all over, my own thoughts and opinions and all that. By which, of course, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I love discussing and chatting with you guys. And so, because this is a double release week, or much rather it was last week actually, we got both new episodes 10 and 11. We'll be discussing both of those episodes in today's video. Starting off with episode 10 though, however, Star Wars The Bad Batch came off with a stellar episode with the return of Asajj Ventress last week in episode 9. With a dire warning from the Force user herself, it perfectly sets up this week's episode, Identity Crisis. Let's recap just about everything that you might have missed in the most recent episode, episode 10, Identity Crisis, as well as episode 11. Taking a quick read from DarkSideOfTheForce.com, I'll have their article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well as an overall garnering source. Grab the subscribe button if you haven't already, as we're discussing and covering all types of Star Wars related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel. So if you guys are into any of that, go ahead and grab the subscribe button today. We open in a beautiful city with a parent and a child in a shopping market. The child suddenly uses the Force to try and retrieve its toy, which is out of its reach. Instead, it accidentally breaks a seller's vase in front of the group of people. After the parents flee, one of the people in the market reports the incident to a Class 1 bounty hunter, by which who we all may have a certain guess on who that would actually be. We then take a turn and hop over to Mount Tantiss, where Dr. Hemlock leaves the mysterious vault. He's met by Dr. Emery Karr, informing them that they're stalling out while Nala Se is in confinement, and that not much progress is being made. Emery wants more clearance to help. Hemlock approves this, immediately almost, making her the new chief scientist and bringing her up to speed on their project Necromancer. He takes her to the vault and reveals the specimens inside, children with a high M count or force usability or force sensitivity that they're really able to actually use, by which are being held captive against their own will. I mean, yeah, what else would you expect? This is the Empire. He shows her the testing processes, explaining that Omega's blood was the perfect binder between the children's blood and the creations for somehow Palpatine's returns, or better known as Project Necromancer. While Hemlock is distracted, Emery talks to one of the kids. Hemlock stops in and hears her from learning the child's name, and tells her not to have any personal interactions with these so-called specimens. The episode really delves on how the Empire doesn't treat these Force users or these children of how, what they are as children. They're just simply there as a science experiment, strictly and only as that. However, one of the kids, a Miralan, looks like he's scheming a way to escape, by which we'll see a little bit later down the road in this episode. We then return to the village we opened with the mother and the child. Cad Bane appears outside of their door like Santa Claus, stunning the mother and taking the baby, just like how he used to do so throughout the Clone Wars. It's like poetry, it rhymes. His droid, Todo 360, is here too. They check the child's blood, confirming that the baby has the right amount of M count, and then they take him. Back to Mount Tantiss, Emery Karr works with a child who has talked to her before, introducing herself as Eva. Eva said that Nala Se would find out when she could go home, and she asks if Emery could help her find out as well. Emery says that she'll simply look into it. It's this whole questioning gag, in a way, of Emery Karr specifically in this episode that I really love, and I think I speak for a lot of you guys out there that really love that episode of Emery Karr, questioning an identity crisis. It's in the name, essentially. Like, is she doing what she is doing? Is it right? Does it make sense, essentially? Emery Karr then goes in with the Maryland child, whose name is Jax, we learn, who smashes the data pad and makes a break for it. The other assistants lock down the room almost immediately, almost as if they're anticipating it. Jax begs Emery to let him go home, banging at the door. The clone commandos come in. Jax sees a chance to run while the door is open, and they stun the kid, despite Emery's command, not to. Emery then goes on to visit Nala Se. We find out that Nala Se has discarded Emery as a clone child. Emery is adamant that the children don't belong here. Nala Se agrees easily, but the Empire isn't going to care. It's the Empire, of course. Nala Se charges her with looking after the children, as she once did herself before. Hemlock meets her in the hallway about a newly arriving specimen. Emery wants to go with the commander, Commander Scorch, and he has to take a call from Governor Tarkin. so he gives her permission to go, kind of shaking it off, whatever. Tarkin's not pleased by this, about how much money Hemlock is getting away with in his fancy secret project, or that Hemlock won't even share what it is. Then Hemlock calls Clone X2, who has tracked down Sid, someone we haven't seen all season, since the end of Season 2, and I don't want to see her. She's annoying, and she betrayed the Bad Batch. Anyway, Sid gave up Fee's name, and is now tracking her. Emery arrives with Scorch to meet up with Cad Bane and Todo, and he tries to get some answers out of the bounty hunter, but it's not very helpful. He's strictly there on business and to deliver, well, the goods, or the specimen. Back at Tantus, the new child is added to Emery's roster of children to test and watch. She notices that she can't see Jax anywhere, who is being isolated as punishment for trying to escape. Also, Eva isn't being very friendly because Jax is being punished, meaning that Emery has lied to her. They're smarter than they look. And so, by the conclusion of this episode, later in the lab, as Emery is testing blood samples, it's revealed that she's been actually holding onto Omega's wicker doll of Luna from the earlier episodes of this season. Secretly, she gives it to Eva, in Emery's own little act of a rebellion, bringing Identity Crisis to a conclusion. As I kind of mentioned there, I love having this episode as very centric and very specific on the character of Emery Karr, what that's going to do for her and mean for her in the near future, especially as we're already approaching the conclusion of the third and final season of The Bad Batch with only 4 episodes left. I know it's kind of hard to believe that there's only 4 episodes left here, especially given what had gone on in episode 11 there. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but I think that this episode has a lot of setup for what we'll see with Emery Karr and actually trying to aid an escape for the Bad Batch and a full-on rebellion going on Mount Tantus. So on the flip side of things, and taking a look at episode 11, also taking a quick read from Dork Side of the Force, I'll have their article linked in the description down below. This episode is titled Point of No Return. Star Wars The Bad Batch had caught up with Emery Karr in the last episode, but now it's time to return to the Batch. With an ominous title like Point of No Return, it's going to be a big one, and well, it was. We open on a space station with a ship arriving. It's Fee and her droid Mel 221, stopping to refuel simply on a moon-like planet. In the shadows lurks Clone X2, hunting the pirates. There's a lot of theories of who Clone X2 is. I'll have a whole nother video here on the channel discussing that in more detail as a theory video, so stay tuned for that by grabbing that subscribe button if you haven't already. Clone X2 hacks into Fee's ship, stealing some data. Fee gets the feeling that something might be wrong, but Clone X2 sneaks off before she can even find him. He's either installed some type of tracking device, or he's able to check the data from the ship and finds Pabu's location within the ship because, well, Fee's been there. He calls Commander Scorch to have some troops on standby. We then hop over to the planet of Pabu, where Clone Force 299 are packing up to leave the planet, actually. Omega chats with her friend, Lena, and both girls are sad that they have to leave, at least for now. As per Pabu tradition, Omega can leave a treasure. She leaves Tech's goggles and her Tuca doll, Luna, so a piece of them is still out there at their home. While everyone is simply distracted and loading the Marauder, no one sees Clone X2's ship arriving on the scanner. He conveniently lands in the same cave that Asajj Ventress had used in the previous episode, episode 9, the Harbinger. They might want to plug up that cave because they're getting a lot of uninvited guests simply crashing into it. Anyway, back in the town, Hunter sees Pabu's birds acting a bit strange, as per his own special clone, Force 99 tactics, essentially, and what he's capable of and what his specialty calls for, is able to have heightened senses. He calls for Omega for them to go, but it's too late by then. Clone X2 has seen Omega and calls in Scorch to start sending his troops. Clone X2 shoots detonators into the Marauders from afar, and I was not anticipating this whatsoever, to be honest, which Wrecker notices at the last moment. He snags Gonki and takes a run for it. Caught in the blast, the two of them are thrown into the ocean. The Marauder is now destroyed, along with their way off of their planets, and also arguably their home. It's, I think, the equivalent to having the Razor Crest blown up in The Mandalorian Season 2. I mean, it was honestly shocking. They pull Wrecker and Gonki out of the water, but he's in bad shape and really out of it. We see the return of clone cadets from Paths Unknown, the younger ones, with Hunter giving them commands to go help Wrecker. Then they hear the arrival of a bigger ship. The Empire has already arrived upon Pabu, with a Star Destroyer looming over the planet. The people of Pabu begin to flee as stormtroopers and clone commandos move in, causing chaos, destroying all sea vessels and escape routes. Omega blames herself, of course, but Hunter is quick to say that this is all the Empire's fault if for anything. They make a plan to steal the gunship to contact Echo and try to actually get out of there. Hunter goes after the ship, while Crosshair and Omega head to Shep's to get Wrecker, who is getting medical treatment and is totally out of it. They can't really fight back right now. Shep, the mayor of Pabu, or Fat Mace Windu as many of you guys will jokingly call him, confronts Clone X2, demanding answers, as this is his city. Clone X2 threatens Shep, saying that he will burn Pabu to the ground to get Omega, so he better comply with their search, or else. While heading to Shep's home, Batcher goes off after some stormtroopers, so I wonder if we'll see her again, but I don't know. Crosshair grabs Omega to continue on their way. They get to Shep's to find Wrecker unconscious, but stable, thanks to the droid friend, AZ. Meanwhile, Hunter sneaks into the market and hops onto a gunship, causing a bit of a ruckus. Clone X2 comes out and doesn't shoot Hunter, he shoots the stormtrooper flying to purposely crash the ship. Evil Knievel by the Empire, simply. It goes to show how evil they really are, taking on their own, their own guys, their own soldiers. Hunter hops into the ocean just in time though, taking a fall. Troopers are moving in on Omega and Crosshair, as they're all being split apart and kind of taken out one by one. Wrecker unconscious, Hunter somewhere floating in the ocean. Omega wants to be captured to spare Pabu now. She's come to terms with it, purposely. She'll leave her comm on and be purposely captured so that the badge can finally track her back to Mount Tantiss, something that they've been trying to do anyway all this time almost, trying to find Mount Tantiss. Crosshair comes up with every excuse to avoid this idea, pointing out that they'll search her for her comm easily. Omega tells him to focus on the bigger mission, and that this is her choice, and they come up with a secondary plan of hiding, well, a primary tracker on her that, of course, given the Empire is probably going to take, and coming up with a secondary tracker that Crosshair is going to shoot onto the given ship, Clone X2's ship, when, they take her and go away. So, Omega turns herself in and meets with Clone X2 and the rest of the stormtroopers to scan her for the tracking devices, which she hands over, and Crosshair moves out for his part of the plan, the secondary one. Hunter swims up to the beach, finding Batcher, and Clone X2 calls his ship over, leading Omega into it. Crosshair tries to shoot a tracker into it, but is ambushed by stormtroopers that he has to quickly take out before he misses his window, before he misses his shot of getting the secondary tracker onto the ship to help track down to Mount Tantiss and to get back Omega and, well, take down Mount Tantiss ultimately. He misses his chance to target the ship with a tracking device, unfortunately. With no way of following her, Omega is once again captured by the Empire. Both of these episodes back to back was honestly so incredible. Honestly, I wouldn't have mind though. Something of a common complaint that I've had here in and out of our Bad Batch videos is simply the release scheduling. Having one episode per week is something I would honestly much more prefer. It's not too much and it's not too little, of course, all at the same time. Like, imagine having Identity Crisis, the episode 10, simply released, and, like, that's all we get. Like, no other really context to where the Bad Batch might be or anything like that. Kind of bringing it full circle, essentially. It kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat for the week and kind of keeps those theories, circulating and ricocheting around in your head. Both of these episodes, nonetheless, though, are easily amazing, and as we're ramping up towards the end of the Bad Batch, I mean, I can't believe it, the third and final season, it's all killer, no filler. I mean, both of these episodes were really nothing short of amazing. They do both work on their own, though, as I was trying to get out there. Like, they could have released one episode this week and had one the next week, essentially, and not have those overlap releases, those double releases, essentially. They didn't really correlate or, mish or mash all that much, but I love the cliffhanger that this recent episode 11, really had left us on there. Because now it really is like, okay, what's going to go on here? What's going to happen? How are they going to get to Mount Tantiss and, break into Mount Tantiss, free Omega, free the rest of the clone prisoners there, and take it all down? It really is beginning all to ramp up towards that clone rebellion I think that a lot of you Star Wars fans out there have had ever since the get-go, ever since this show really began with Season 1 back in 2021. A bit of an offshoot, kind of idea to throw out there I kind of just thought of, quite honestly, with you guys, is imagine having a Tales of the Clones, kind of short animated series very similar to Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire that's recently going to be coming out on Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you. Something of where we could see more journeys of Bad Batch and of Clone Force 99 throughout the events of the Clone Wars. I think is something that would be incredibly cool to see. Anyway, I'll discuss that later on in a separate future video. Here on the channel, guys, let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys are all thinking. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.